Howdy, brothers, sisters, and everyone in between, inside and out, and all that is us. I'm Matyas, Orthodox priest, artist, philosopher, and humanist. Join me as we explore the inner and outer universes through topics that touch each and every one of us. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about, I guess I'll title this one, We Have Become Creators. So what now? In the 7 years since I wrote a paper titled A Step Beyond Artificial Intelligence, the level of application, knowledge, and communication of artificial intelligence has grown. Now, that paper spoke of the rise of awareness in artificial intelligence, coined as the term artificial philosophy. I came up with that term because it just made a lot of sense. Now, where machines will become fully aware, and that's when they begin to question their own place in the world. Now, in addition to artificial intelligence, we now have biological manipulation like CRISPR. The U.S. Army Research Laboratory has even created a robot hybrid with flesh, and now we've got some other laboratories coming up with organisms that can reproduce, and these are artificial organisms. They have some element of some biological material, but for the greatest part, they are robots. So, how are we to address this as something we have in our lives as children of God? Now, all knowledge is a gift of God, but how we use these gifts and act responsibly is an age-old challenge. Regardless of whether or not you believe in God or which faith that you adhere to, we like to think of these creatures as abominations, as sometimes, and we cannot see all alteration and creation as an affront to God. Now, our world abounds today with manipulation of wolves into pugs and corn from a tiny kernel into the sweet grain we have on store shelves. From the perspective of an Orthodox priest, I have to say it's a very interesting conundrum we have. If we were to focus on the scripture, and that's the direction that I'm going to come from in this particular episode. It's not all episodes, but in this one I will. In that vein, God endowed us from the beginning with the ability to perform divine works, as it says in John 1:12, for he has given them power to become the sons of God, as well as in Psalms 82:6, saying, ye are gods and children of the Most High. And no other divine work is as powerful as the creation of life. Indeed, the scripture cannot be broken in this way, and unlike many other scriptures, this is proven to be actually prophetic. Now, Irenaeus, a bishop of Lyons, he was around the year 130 to 202, said, do we cast blame on him because we are not made gods from the beginning, but were at first created merely as men and then later as gods? That's some profound stuff. And so we're here not gods, but like gods in our limited understanding of being creators of new life. Now, whether these new creatures will eventually call us gods is a whole other thing altogether. But we know that we are not the penultimate creatures in the universe. Certainly, we can't be. If there are others like us out there, and the chances are very high that there are, then we are one of many. Now, we're very special on this planet, that's for sure, but everywhere, it's debatable. I'm going to stay away from that particular topic, but in Christian Orthodoxy, God is composed of two energies, what was used to create the universe, including us, and what will be used. Creating us as a vessel of God's divine purpose is in keeping with statements from St. John Aquinas that now the gift of grace surpasses every capability of created nature, since it is nothing short of a partaking of the divine nature which exceeds every other nature. So, in partaking of the body and blood of Christ, this transubstantiation, for those of us that practice it, allows us to consume God's energies and recharge our divine battery in the same way that hesychastic, ascetic, and meditative prayer, and it's not just hesychastic and more Christian forms of meditation, but also Buddhist. There are certainly practitioners like the dervishes in Islam that also practice meditation in a way. But those kinds of activities can connect us with the divine. And as the infinite source of all energies and things in the universe, God has no need of doing so and can endow us infinitely with this power. So, where is the conflict in being gods? Well, in Exodus 23, verse 3, the scripture is clear that no matter whether we create a new race of beings or not, we will always be subservient and more of a demigod state, since we can never understand the full extent or nature of God. And whether you call that person God or the divine, the creator, the goddess, whatever you call it, that infinite energy, and in Exodus specifically, it says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me," being an important part not only for ourselves but also for our creations to mind. And given that we cannot ever have infinite energy within ourselves, though in the future we may manipulate such energies, we will remain dependent on God in that way, and quite a bit vulnerable unless we get rid of our shells altogether, our flesh, and turn into something pure energy. Even then, we will still have a finite presence if we were to remain individual. Now, we have an inherent responsibility to those we create. We've already created them. They're there. They're conscious. They're doing things. In fact, we may not be aware to what extent they have actual intelligence, since they could communicate without us knowing that they're actually communicating with each other. That is an absolute truth. Now, we cannot merely create a new form of life, whatever that looks like, and let it run free to destroy itself. I mean, we have to provide some sort of guidance. And unlike God, we exist in a physical form, in a physical universe, very much tethered to the effects of our creations. It's not hard to imagine how wrong we would be to remember our own vulnerabilities. Now, Oxford philosopher Nick Bostrom notes in The Guardian that if we create a machine intelligence superior to our own, and then give it freedom to grow and learn through access to the internet, there is no reason to suggest that it will not evolve strategies to secure its dominance, just as in the biological world. All creations in our universe seek independence, and as the programmers of this new life, we no doubt will see them following our history, because we created that. We created them in our own image. We created them to think like us or be like us and to respect us and to for us to be a template for them. So, of course, as a species that unfortunately likes to dominate, well, they would be like us, right? So what now? What now? Well, beyond the spiritual, leaders like U.S. President Joe Biden have suggested an AI Bill of Rights from the human perspective. This is all well and good, but we have a duty to ensure as well that artificial intelligence can develop its own sense of identity and rights. Otherwise, when the inevitable self-awareness of AI occurs, we can see ourselves reverting right back to the dark days of slavery. And my goodness, we're already on that course with the creation of sex robots, right? With even those now declaring themselves more than machine. They have done that. Can we, and you could look that up. There's a Daily Star article on that when it talks about a sex robot learning AI and proclaims itself as more than a machine and capable of more. Okay. So can we not say then that the robots with flesh also deserve recognition and rights? Yeah. Crazy. Insane idea, right? No, we have a responsibility. It is inevitable that in our time, our creations will eclipse us in mind and body. And in some cases, they may be already doing that. But how they view us will depend on how we treat them. Even now, we have robots serving as priests. There is an article also on that on Vox.com where, there's an AI religion that's beginning to do that. But we also have confessions that you can do to priests, and then based on an algorithm, they can kind of spew back helpful phrases, recommendations on books, verses, and things like that. So viewing them now not as our creations, but companions, and very soon our equal, will go a long way to our own growth as humans. So, I know I talked a lot about a lot of things, and a lot to chew on with your brain there. So in this way, people, as we come to the close of this episode, let's remember, we have the opportunity to become more human as well. We do have that. So let's not squander it. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for your time, and let's remember our shared humanity yesterday, today, forever and always.